The following podcast contains spoilers and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised. Hello and welcome to Animated Anarchy, the podcast that takes a critical look at animated movies of all kinds, and by the end we determine the good from the bad. Hello, I am Andrew Dickman, and I am with
Mike Ruocco
once again, and Merry Christmas!
Almost.
Yay! Almost. I mean, it's Christmas
You're
time.
You're early. You jumped the gun.
It's Christmas time this year. On the way home here, because we had lunch
On the way here home?
Yeah, on the way home, because we have lunch sometimes, and then we just come back to my place and we watch the movie and then do the podcast. On the radio is the most depressing Christmas song I've ever heard.
The Christmas Shoes?
And it's like, no, it's not the Christmas Shoes. It's the one where it's like, it's a song about Africa. And it's like, it's such a great, happy tune, but the lyrics is basically, and the world is so desolate, and the place
is it the band, like Band-Aid?
I can't remember who the band is or who sang it, but I'm sure someone knows out there.
Do they know it's Christmas time at all?
Yes, that's the one.
That is a famous song, because it was...
Is it?
It's all these... They had all these people come and sing the song, like celebrities and stuff. It's all celebrities singing
really?
the song. Yeah, look it up.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know. It doesn't sound like it on the radio.
Yeah,
it's
not a great song.
No, it's terrible.
It was for fundraising. It's like a fundraising song.
It makes it it's a fundraising song, but they make it sound like Africa is like the most awful place to be.
It shouldn't be like on the radio along with like rocking around the Christmas tree.
No, it really shouldn't. And it's like, but it's like I'm like dancing to this song, and then I hear the lyrics, and I'm like, oh dear.
People do dance to that song. It's
yeah,
really
it's like I felt bad. Like,
you know what's funny? I got on my my iPod. I have a Christmas album.
Yeah,
and I had that song was on there.
Yeah.
As part of the playlist, and when I imported it to iTunes, I just deleted that song because it is not a great song. That and Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, which is an equally awful song.
Yeah, well, it's just funny to me because it's like I really like the tune of that song, but it just makes me feel terrible listening to it.
That's like me when I listen to, like Ringo Starr's solo work or anything like that, where it's like, I feel really terrible listening to this.
So, we started. We're doing our start of Christmas themed movies, and we're probably not going to do a whole lot, but we wanted to start off with a good one. So we decided that we're going to talk about Aardman Animation and Sony Pictures' Arthur Christmas, which is it was a delight. I mean, I remember seeing this in theaters, and I was kind of sketchy about it because whenever there's like a Christmas movie out, you always kind of wonder, it's like, is this going to be a hit or a miss?
Is it going to be hokey or is it going to be too...
Yeah, because like, and like, I know people like movies like Elf and Fred Claus and stuff like that.
I'm not a huge fan of Elf.
Yeah, I'm not either.
I know. I mean, it's like everyone told me that that's like the best Christmas movie ever, and I watched it. And I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah, there's funny moments in it. Right, I mean, I won't doubt it, but to me, it's not really a great movie.
Yeah.
God, and every time I talk about Christmas movies, because I remember seeing it when it was out. How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the Jim Carrey one.
Which I surprisingly don't have much of a problem with.
I don't have a problem with it either.
I think it's corny and like bad, but in a way that's
and Jim Carrey is like, he's being himself. He's being overacting.
The movie is entertaining.
Yeah,
it's like seeing like an amateur stage show,
right?
Rather than
exactly.
So it doesn't tarnish my image of the book or of the original special.
No, it doesn't.
So I watch that at Christmas time,
and it's funny because like my niece and nephew would love it when I would do impressions of the Grinch. It's like, oh gosh, I can't remember like. I'm trying to remember like lines from the movie.
The whole line where he was just like he's trying to think his schedule.
Yeah,
and he's like, I'm book solid. He's like, it's weird. He's doing
hate, loathe entirely.
I love it when he's like, what? He's like, am I? And he checks his voicemail and he says like, oh, I wonder what my outgoing message is. And he goes, if you even leave as much as one syllable, I'll hunt you down and gut you like a fish. If you'd like to fax me, press the star key. Like that,
there's some funny
weird. It's
stuff.
just weird that like he decided like, what should the voice of the Grinch be? How about like Nixon meets Sean Connery meets
And I also
like,
think and I also think it had to do with the fact that he had a lot of limitation because he was just covered in like
he had stuff in his teeth,
3 inches of face paint.
Yeah,
you know,
that, and he had stuff in his teeth. He had these things in his that made his eyes hurt. I think his eyes still hurt
oh god, I wouldn't doubt it
because that stuff looked.
because it's made of lead paint.
God.
Speaking of lead paint, let's get to Arthur Christmas. I know we're going off tangent here because there's a lot of Christmas movies to talk about, but honestly, for both of us, the biggest one that comes to mind, like immediately, is in terms of like modern Christmas movies. Arthur Christmas is probably one of the best.
Yeah, I really, really enjoy this movie.
Yeah, and it's by Aardman Animation, who we know more doing Wallace and Gromit and Shaun the Sheep, and
Chicken
Run, yeah,
Flushed Away.
So like claymation was a big thing. I think the first was the first CG Aardman cartoon like the
it was Flushed Away.
Was it Flushed Away?
Yeah, because they couldn't. It was done underwater.
Yeah,
or not underwater, but it was in sewers and stuff. And they said, "Well, we got to do it." Well, it was DreamWorks too.
Yeah, DreamWorks was
then,
also part of it.
Yeah, and then DreamWorks gave them the shaft, and then they were like, "We're doing."
But
our own
it
thing
still
again.
it still had the Aardman look to it. It's
Yeah, like they popped frames and they had stuff like that. They made it look CG.
Yeah,
made it look stop motion, but it was CG.
Yeah, and that was a fun movie. I like the look of it. And, it was around the time when their DreamWorks was doing a lot of let's just put in a lot of songs and in our movies and just that'll be the hilarity of it.
Yeah,
and but Aardman Animation will always have like a really big place in our heart because claymation is not something that a lot of studios delve in because it's a really tasking method of animation. You know, you have these sets basically, and you need a studio in order to play them in, and it's like they just come in and move like very small parts every now and then. They have to make sure not to breathe on stuff if it's like
yeah, like the thing about like specifically with claymation, or in this case, well, claymation is technically copyrighted. So they call it.
Oh, the name
claymation.
By who?
By Will Vinton.
Really?
Owns the term claymation.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding.
Huh.
And so this is considered like they do it. I guess I don't know what they call it.
Stop motion.
Well, stop motion.
Probably.
Yeah. But like this is done with plastic. Usually, Aardman uses plasticine for like the Wallace and Gromit and for Shaun the Sheep.
Yeah, yeah.
But nowadays,
and Leica does a
lot of replacement stuff where they use
yeah,
models
which I think really has upped the ante about stop motion.
But this movie is completely CG.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it's I think it's in a way it still evokes that feeling of like an Aardman movie, but it's CG, and I think it really works in its favor. Because I don't think there's no way. Well, are you going to animate an army of? Would you want to animate an army of elves?
Well, I was kind of wondering because around the time wasn't there like a fire at the Aardman studio?
I don't think it was. I mean, I don't think it was the reason why they went to do.
No, I don't think it's the reason why.
Well,
but I mean, like
a few years ago they had a huge fire and they lost all their Chicken Run models and sets.
So it was older stuff.
It was everything up to that point.
Oh, okay.
So they lost everything from I think Were-Rabbit. They lost everything from the previous
I see. So it was more of a storage facility.
But the only thing that survived, the only stuff that survived were the original Wallace and Gromit puppets that Nick Park has in his house.
Right, yeah.
But everything else got destroyed completely.
Wow. Yeah, because I remember hearing about that, and I was wondering, were they working on something on that studio?
I don't know the logistics of what happened.
Yeah, because what was the last? I think it was Shaun the Sheep, the movie, right? Or was it Timmy the Sheep? There's
Timmy the Sheep?
The sheep. There's
Shaun the Sheep.
Shaun the Sheep is basically a spin-off of Wallace and Gromit, and there's another spin-off from Shaun the Sheep called Timmy. And
it's the little baby sheep?
Yeah, it's like the little sheep, and I think it was like made for. It was like a more preschool type show, and I know this. I know the theme song to it. Timmy, he's a little lamb with a lot to learn.
I've never heard of this.
Really?
No, I've not. Okay. I thought it was still Shaun the Sheep.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like I think it was Timmy the Lamb or something. But But yeah, the Shaun the Sheep movie was the last
That was the last thing they've done.
done so far. Yeah, and
I don't know what they're working on.
They're very. I mean, if you've seen their animation, it's very recognizable. The big teeth and very British, very Britishness of it.
Yeah, well, not surprising.
No, not surprising. But Arthur Christmas, the style of it is, it doesn't bother me. I wouldn't care if this was claymation or if it was CG. It's still very nice the way it looks.
Yeah, it benefits from the CG because there is a lot going on.
Oh yeah, especially in the beginning because there's so much that just comes at you at once.
Yeah.
It's like they just throw you into this world immediately, and so it's like, okay, there's this, and they're just being bombarded by information.
And at times, there are times where, like, definitely in the beginning of this movie, where you're like, whoa, wait, what's going on?
Yeah.
Which normally to me, that's like a big turn off in a movie. It's like, okay, you're just throwing stuff at me, hoping it'll stick.
But I think in a way it works for this movie because it's supposed to be fast paced. It's like things happen really fast. It's like if you were in the seat of one of these characters watching this happen, it would happen really fast. Because
it's a huge operation what they do. Well, we should start talking about the movie.
Yes, so it starts off. With does it start off? I forget if it starts off with Arthur talking about Santa.
Well, it's this little girl delivers her letter to Santa.
Yes,
it gets somehow. We never actually established how it gets to the North Pole.
Yeah,
but
because it's just Santa, North Pole, and and it's just
so
this.
She writes a letter to Santa, and Arthur Christmas. Arthur.
Arthur. We find is where all the letters go to.
He works in letters, and he's one of the letter agents, and he.
And we pass by a hall that shows all the Santas over the history of
from
time.
Saint Nick all the way up to the current Santa.
Saint Nick, 11th Santa, up to 20th, which is the recent Santa.
Yeah.
And Arthur is basically reading off letters from children, and he writes back to them. He's like very enthusiastic about it. I mean, you can tell by all the crap that's in his room that is just nothing but Christmas stuff.
He's into it. He loves and has faith in his father and his job.
And that's how you find out. Arthur is the son of Santa.
Yeah.
So, it's like it's admiration for your father, doing something.
Yeah. He thinks his dad is the greatest person on the planet.
Yeah, exactly.
And he has the coolest job on the planet.
Which is a nice characteristic, It's just like admiration
He's
for...
He's devoted to his father and
who happens to be Santa Claus,
Yeah.
So Santa Claus who... brings joy to all the children of the world, and he has a son, and his son is also in deep admiration of this figure that gives happiness to the world, and that's what he himself believes in,
right? And he loves answering letters for kids,
he's very enthusiastic. I mean, you can tell that he's kind of like the crazy guy who would always like really be into the holiday spirit and just like buy any weird trinket that he spots.
Yeah,
like he even wears like shoes that are
the reindeer, the electronic reindeer
slippers that like sing tunes.
Yeah, it's really, but yeah, he's and
he even says that they're from China.
But yeah, and they at the North Pole over the course of the last couple hundred years.
It's gotten a overhaul.
It's gotten an overhaul.
It's kind of like a what is it? A base of operation.
It's almost like NORAD or something. Where you go underneath and it's really well designed. Like the mission control is all tiered, so it looks like a big crystal Christmas tree.
Yep.
And there's an army of elves, and they're all computers, and they're keeping track of the weather, Santa's location, all this stuff. And it's really in depth, and they're always like throwing information a mile a minute. And it's when you catch it, you're like, oh, that's a neat little. They really took the time to plan that out.
It's like the base of operation and everything. All of the they're all NASA operators.
Yeah,
watching like the spaceship out there, and the sled is a giant spaceship. So it's
a giant.
Rocket.
Apparently, it goes hundreds of thousands of miles,
and it has like
it looks kind of like a sleigh, which is really neat.
Yeah,
very Star Trek
Yeah, esque.
Yeah. But it's still a sleigh.
Because the underneath of it is basically like that's camouflage.
So you can't,
So you can't see it when it hovers over you. So it's like this huge ship, and basically the elves do everything. Santa's just kind of like there, you know. He's like I mean, he's still there, but they're all directing him to do stuff, and he's just kind of like, oh, this is normal day.
And he's weird because he's kind of just sort of going through the motions, but he still thinks he's Santa.
Yeah,
like he's the greatest thing.
He's like, he really is proud of what he does, but at the same time, it's like he's not really doing anything.
Especially not anymore.
Yeah,
and his other son, Arthur's brother, is Steve, who is kind of he is kind of lined up to be the next Santa in line, or at least in his eyes.
He's voiced by Hugh Laurie.
And he's more into the technical side of things. He doesn't really, unlike Arthur.
He is the modern age, like Santa Claus.
But the thing about him is that he's more technically technical in his, like, he doesn't really care about like the holidays. Like he even says like holidays in a time of emotion. But Arthur is the opposite, where he's clumsy, he's kind of a fool, but he loves the holiday, and he makes sure to remember every kid's name and knows what they want, and make sure that let's make sure that they get the blue dog, because that's the one.
And of course he's clumsy. He trips over everyone,
right, and causes trouble, and everyone thinks
everyone knows that.
Yeah,
even though they're like really nice to him. I was like, oh hey Arthur, how's it going? I was like,
and Steve is just very, very by the book,
straightforward,
technical, he runs a very clean operation. Everything's going without a hitch.
Yeah, he's like the head of just the head of operations of like a big business. Like like if you were in a store, working for a store, he would be the big boss, just like directing anything. Yeah, so it's like, and he even has like his little assistant who
Drinks
just like worships the ground he walks on, because he's the assistant. Is like, I bought you this. He bought him like underwear
boxers that say "We believe in Steve."
Yeah.
Or in Steve we believe.
Yeah, in Steve we believe, and it's like very creepy, sort of. Smithers-esque sort of way.
Devotion to this guy who's about like maybe 1/10 the height.
Yeah, and every time like he was on screen, it's like I've noticed like this guy's like he's very pale compared to all the other elves.
He's very like
sickly
looking. But so there's this huge operation. They do it every year, and they deliver billions of presents. It's all like almost like spy-like, where they come swooping in on cables and
it's like they're kind of like
special ops.
Yeah, special ops.
Yeah,
that's
and I was saying in there, because it's weird. I didn't see this movie until after I saw the Prep and Landing short that Disney did, which is very similar. It
was Pixar though, right?
No, it was Disney.
Was it Disney?
Disney, yeah.
Oh, I thought it was Pixar.
No, it was Disney.
Oh.
And Disney did a very similar, where it's about these two, what they call the Prep and Landing elves, who come in, and they, like, instead of doing Santa's job, they go into the house and make sure that Santa can get in easily and deliver the presents.
Yeah.
So which
is a neat idea. I mean,
But in this film, it's really, they are doing everything. They're eating the cookies. They're checking who's naughty and nice, and delivering the presents. And
it's almost to the point where it's like you kind of wonder how things were done in the past. It's like, it's like, okay, so this Santa has like thousands of elves that do everything for him. You kind of wonder, it's like, when it wasn't as technological previously, how the hell did that happen? But they go into like little details about it like later on. So it's like, it's not really supposed to explain everything to you, but it's still fun to watch.
Right.
So later on, we see that also the previous Santa, Grand Santa, voiced by Bill Nighy, is watching on the TV, and he's like grumbling about, it's like, oh yeah, there's all this technological bim baff, and I just love the way he talks.
He uses like old time analogy.
Yeah,
and he's a cranky old skinny Santa.
Yeah.
And he's got an elderly reindeer.
Yeah.
Which
is like an old dog, Yeah. It's like you have the old man with the old dog, and it's funny that the reindeer has like a cone around his neck. And he's surrounded in booze and pills.
Yeah, like he's got a cart behind him, and I actually didn't notice until we watched it again.
Yeah.
there's just big bottles of whiskey, and right next to it is just pills, like medication, pill bottles.
And then there's Mrs. Santa, who is like the very proper like lady who's just like she's in the background, and you realize like, oh, it's a loving mother and a loving wife,
husband,
loving
who?
Yes, a loving.
This has been interesting.
Mrs. Claus is a loving husband.
No, but she loves her. I was saying she loves her husband. She's devoted, but she's like people don't like his. Santa doesn't really expect much of her.
Right.
He's like, oh, she does things at home. What a loving wife. And he does honestly care, but he's just sort of misguided.
And you get that like moment from Mrs. Claus where it's like, oh, dear. Okay, where it's like she just kind of like kekeeps her mouth shut about it.
She's very proper, prim and proper about it.
But you also realize that she is very like there's more to her.
She's with it. Like
she's very with it, and she's very like strong-hearted and everything, and like she is more of the she wears the pants in the family. Yeah,
she knows she's like signing treaties with Greenland and cooking dinner and fighting a polar bear and like all this stuff, but you don't really see her do it, but she's in complete control. And she knows how to handle a situation really well. And so it's this family of...
Yeah, it's a family. It's really neat how they made the Santa Claus into sort of like a family sort of gathering. And it's even made more so when they're all gathered at the dinner table, and you see like
it's really awkward.
It's the awkward family Christmas dinner, and it's hilarious.
Yeah,
because you have Arthur, who's like the really like he's the youngest probably.
He brings the board game.
It brings the board game. Wants everyone to be happy, and he's really excited about it. There's the grandpa who's just like complaining about everything, like hits everyone else on the head, and
there's like it's weird because he's older, but he's almost like the angsty teenager just wants to be on his cell phone.
Yeah. Steve is just on his cell phone, like doing.
I mean,
whatever.
He's angry because what happened was he expected that after this mission, because it was his father's 70th mission as Santa, and it was supposedly his last.
Yeah. But
he comes back and he's like, I can't wait till next year. Who's here's for 71?
Yeah, they've been all expecting him to retire, and Steve, like they all expected Steve to be the next Santa Claus because he's been really good at making everything come together and work.
Like he was like the surefire new Santa in everyone's eyes.
Yeah, they even had like balloons ready for him, like at the end
with his face.
But then, the Santa Claus, who is Malcolm, that's his name, right? Malcolm. Okay, and they made it out. Or he was announcing like, "Thank you, everyone! I can't wait for the next year," and it's like. And then silence, and then everyone
Applause.
Just claps because okay, you gotta clap for the boss, whoever it is. Yeah. And Steve's just there, like he was ready with cards, and he just drops them. And it's hilarious. These moments are like really, really funny. And
you could tell that throughout all this, Arthur just wants everyone. I mean, he loves his father and still wants him to be Santa.
Loves his brother.
He loves his brother. He loves his mom. He loves Grand Santa. And he listens to everybody, but. He is a bumbling fool.
Yeah, and it's like he just wants everyone to be happy. Yeah. So it's like...
And so... but at one point during the mission, they have what they call a waker when a kid wakes up while Santa's in the room.
Yeah.
And it's a really funny scene where they're like, you got to remove the batteries. It's this thing, and you have to go through
the try me button. Yeah. That's what he's on.
You accidentally press the try me button and all this stuff, and it's really a fun scene. But during that scene... An elf unknowingly presses a button, and a bike that was meant to be for the girl who sends the letter at the beginning of the movie falls off to the side and ends up not getting delivered at the end of the mission.
It's neglected.
And gets discovered by Bryony, is her name?
Yeah, Bryony.
Yeah, Bryony. And who is she's a gift wrapping elf. And she finds it, and then they're like, we got to deliver this present to her, and Arthur of course is really upset about it, but Steve's like, but she's only like 0.0001%. It's we'll get it to her eventually. But Arthur's like, but it'll spoil the magic. It's Christmas. She has to have a present on Christmas morning.
And Bryony is the elf who's like very like
she's a gopher. She's a
gopher, and she's part of the gift wrapping division. So she really knows how to wrap presents.
Yeah, and she's really quick at it.
And it's kind of cute because she's very militant looking, and she has like the piercing on her eyebrow.
She has an eyebrow piercing,
and she has like the spiky like bleached hair in the middle.
Yeah.
It's like she's really cute in this movie.
Yeah,
so
she's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah,
in the movie.
she's voiced by Ashley Jensen, who was in a lot of other Aardman movies actually.
Yeah,
besides this one. So yeah, and she was great in this movie.
Right.
Yeah. And I have to say, throughout all of this, the thing that really gets me about everything is like I love the British accent angle to this. It really adds to the characters.
You mean the actual vocal delivery?
Yeah, the delivery of like all the characters is really helped. I mean, the character personalities themselves really are.
There's good chemistry between them.
Yeah, because I don't know. There's something about British accents that really gives a lot of character to these particular, like iconic characters like Santa Claus and all that. And to know the fact that they're British is just another element that really like helps add to it.
Yeah.
You know? It's like they're not just like a generic like all around or American voiced character.
Yeah.
It's like no, they're British. They've been British for like the longest time. You even see like that in the portraits. Like they're almost have been in the British military because you always kind of wonder if they've had service every once in a while.
But it's funny that like, and then I love how I could see Grand Santa being Santa.
Yeah,
I can see how the current Santa is Santa, but they're all distinct characters, but they're all in a way Santa.
Yeah,
which I think is really fitting.
It's really interesting, and Arthur is like the least likely to look like a Santa, and that really helps later on in the movie, honestly, because like it's really neat. You have like the old Santa, which is like the previous Santa. It's like he's an old guy, but you believe he was Santa. You have the modern Santa, which looks like the Coca-Cola looking Santa Claus, and then you have like the future Santa almost, where he has like his goatee is shaped like a Christmas tree, and he has like the white hair, but he's very like has a huge torso and like very like
he looks like a bodybuilder. Wow.
Yeah.
His shrimpy little brother.
Yeah, he looks like he's lifted weights during the rest of the year. So he's very and he's also very like military-esque.
And their rooms, like you see glimpses of like because the thing I also love is that they very seldom do you see in a movie when they design characters. Mm-hmm. There's no real even if it's a family, sometimes they just don't look like they're related.
Right.
They just randomly design characters. There's the child, there's the brother, there's the sister, but they don't look like they're children of the two parents.
Yeah.
In this movie, I love how both the sons and the old Santa and the current Santa and Mrs. Claus, the children feel like there's attributes of both. Mm-hmm. The father, they all look like they're related.
Yeah,
and they have the same nose.
Oh yeah, that's another.
Really
is,
yeah,
there is like a good connection between the characters that they're they all have the features of the parents.
Yeah,
so
I love the designs in this.
Yeah, it was really nice, and it was like cute. I mean, figuring stuff like that out, and like you were saying with the rooms where they're in, you have Steve who is in probably. It looks like he lives in the upper class sort of New York
with the big
building
sliding door closet, walk-in closet.
Yeah, and then you have like the Modern Family. Mrs. Claus and Santa Claus like together in like the bed where they're together, and it's just like a quiet moment before they go to bed.
Yeah,
and
Grand Santa's room.
Santa's room is a mess.
It's a tiny TV with a reclining chair and like I guess like a tea tray table that's just been filled with booze.
Yeah,
and a little and a basket for his
all his medication.
Reindeer. Yeah, but I love just and throughout the movie there's a lot of attention. There's some really good attention to detail. Mm-hmm. Like you look in the background and you'll see like
there's so much detail in this movie. It's incredible. Like there were moments where we were just like reading stuff off the background because like we were afraid we were going to miss stuff.
Yeah. We noticed in the girls' bedroom at the end. I was like, wait a minute,
God,
is that a because I guess tie-ins with other Aardman projects.
Yeah.
And Sony, because Sony was the one who made this movie.
Yeah.
Well, I looked at there's a scene near the end of the movie where you're in her bedroom and you see
There's a cute little frame picture of a puppy, and then right above that is
a poster for Chop Sucky Chooks, the Kung Fu Chicken cartoon from like 5 years ago.
Yeah, I remember when that aired. I like heard that name, and I was like, wait a minute.
That sounds
so racist.
Chop Sucky Chooks.
It sounds like a racist slur.
I feel like I'm afraid of making like a weird slip when I say it.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to. But it's weird because I noticed that there was a coming soon poster for Open Season, even though the movie was already long out.
Yeah,
by that
there was
point.
a Shaun the Sheep toy somewhere.
Yeah, there was a Shaun the Sheep toy. There was a kind of a sly reference to Wallace and Gromit when Gromit's laying down the train tracks.
Right.
There's a similar moment like that. It's really but also just detail where you look in the background like the fact that I've seen this movie this is probably my fourth time seeing this movie. Every time I watch this movie, I find something new.
Yeah.
So like, I never noticed that in Grand Santa's room that there was whiskey and pills. I didn't notice the pills because I'm looking at Santa and I'm looking at the reindeer and looking at the TV. I didn't notice the tray table filled with booze and pills.
That's. I mean, honestly, that kind of stuff makes it rewatchable. You know? Because if you're watching this as a Christmas movie, it's like you want that rewatchability, and it's like a very charming, very heartwarming movie for it's like, and I can't really always say that for a Santa Claus movie. You know, it's like I guess
there's so many of them.
Yeah, there's so many of them, and a lot of them start to just kind of meld into each other, where it's like, okay, I understand the message, I understand what's going on.
But this is really entertaining and it's really heartwarming. It's funny. I just remembered. Kind of coincidentally, I remember vaguely. I don't know if I think it was a stop motion or a CG Christmas special about Santa's sons, and it's about these two sons who want to take their place as the new Santa, and it's weird because it oddly reminds. Like, watching this again, I vaguely it popped into my mind. I don't know what it's called. I think it's like Robbie Christmas or something.
Yeah.
And I thought it was either stop motion or it was just like early CG. And I guess they get lost in Malibu or something. I don't know. I vaguely remember it, but
I guess I have to look that up, I guess.
Yeah. But so the present doesn't get delivered.
Yes, the president doesn't get delivered. Arthur finds out. He freaks out. He goes to Steve. Steve basically says, like, okay, there's not really anything we can do.
And even convinces Santa that he's like, oh, okay, like, because,
well, Steve knows what's best, so, I'm just going to go to bed and I'll be, and he says, like, I'll be up all night, but, it can't be this,
right?
Nothing can be done about this.
Eats Arthur up, and he's really upset about it. But Grand Santa
comes in, and he basically, it's kind of all like opportunistic, It's like you can tell from him. It's like, oh yes, let's deliver this present and to Gwen, and we'll show that Steve and his technology gobbledygook what for,
the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, the old-fashioned way, and he takes him into this the old cellar, I suppose, where you see like lead paint on the
and like a dead
on the
rat
shelf,
and apparently he's been secretly keeping the old sleigh Evie, this old sleigh.
Yeah.
And it's really, I love the design of the sleigh because there's all these little things.
Yeah, there's like these little bobs. It's like, it's not electronic, but it's like clockwork almost.
Yeah.
So there is a magical element to it, and they explain things like how they make the reindeer fly, and he has new reindeer in the stall as well
that are they're like descendants of the original 9 reindeer.
Yeah,
and it's like Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, and then he can't remember the names. And one of them's Bambi, the one with the white ear, you, and you.
Yeah, and magical fairy dust,
or it's apparently
from the Aurora Borealis, mined from the Aurora Borealis,
which is kind of like, okay, I've never heard that before. Which is cute.
It's cute little magical explanation to something that you don't really. It's like that's fine. It doesn't need to have a scientific explanation.
So Grand Santa kind of cajoles Arthur into going on this mission to deliver the present, and they take the old sleigh out, and It's a nice like flying moment where they're all flying and they're bonding.
Oh, and Arthur is like deathly afraid of flying.
Everything.
Like,
I
mean, he's very fearful of stuff because he just doesn't like, being up in heights and dealing with, anything that's like exciting.
Yeah, he's a worrywart.
Yeah, he's a worrywart, and they fly off, and the Grand Santa has like this map. Like this old map that I guess hasn't been updated in years because it has like it doesn't have countries in it or it doesn't have
like they go into Toronto. They're in Toronto, Canada. That's their first they pass through because they're taking the wrong direction. So they end up through Canada.
Yeah,
and they're like, the Claus have always gone through Canada. It's nice and quiet. No one's here.
But
a lot has happened since he was Santa.
Yeah.
And Bryony, the rapping elf, it was a stowaway.
Yeah, she
joins them
because apparently the wrapping paper was broken.
Yeah, and she wanted to fix it, and she wants to make sure the present gets there.
She's she's OCD about it. It's like she's been programmed to like, oh god, the wrapping paper has to be good.
Yeah, and so they go there. They cause a lot of havoc in Toronto.
Cause a lot of havoc. They make one of the reindeer is missing now because of all of this.
Over the course of the movie, they lose reindeer.
Yes, they lose reindeer, and you start to wonder, it's like, are they okay?
Because they're not flying anymore.
Yeah, it's like after a while, that magic's going to run out, and they're going to fall from the sky. Yeah, there's a lot of little moments in this movie where I realized, okay, there's the ship that rises up from the ocean, and then there's a seal that's like on top of it, and then you just see it like fall over the edge, and it's just kind of like, it's probably going to land on another metal piece. And then reindeer are flying off. There's a moment where they're in Africa, and all of a sudden it's like they're being attacked by lions, and they're running away.
They release the magic dust.
They release the magic dust and to fly off, and then all the animals around in Africa just suddenly fly up into the air.
At one point, they just all drop out of the sky.
And you kind of, it's like, this movie has a lot of animal abuse in it, but it's like, it's okay because you don't see it.
And at the end of the movie, there's a scene at the end of the movie where they have like a little epilogue.
Yeah,
or
they basically,
it's like using their natural compass, they all went back home.
Yeah, they don't.
Good.
They don't.
They wrote a nice sentence wrapping it up.
Yes, no animals were harmed during the making of this movie.
but yeah, so they using an outdated map. They're not using proper technology. They're getting themselves lost, and everywhere they go. They're causing havoc. They
even stop at like Idaho and trying to like get another reindeer, like a fake reindeer from
a fake metal reindeer.
And they're stopped by the guy who owns the place. Like, hey, who's out there? And he has a shotgun.
And he thinks it's a spaceship.
And it's really like clever how everything is done. Like they think Arthur's an alien because of the shoes on his eyes on his feet, and he has like a hoodie on that's like looks very pointy.
Yeah,
and there's like a spinning like light thing that the reindeer like go around, and it like spins around, and
so it looks like it looks like
it's really hilarious.
And then they start getting noticed by like the news that there's like
it starts to get around the world that there's an alien out there.
There's some weird stuff going on.
Yeah, so
between flying animals and all this stuff, and they end up accidentally.
It's like the Nightmare Before Christmas thing. It's like Santa has gone out of control, but this time it's like a UFO.
Yeah.
so they bring out the military out there, or they talk to the UN.
Yeah, and it's funny because they have an establishing shot of what is this like this UN building, but it's called UNFITA, UNFITA, and I'm like, that's great. That's
a great pun there.
Yeah, that's great. And I love like they go. And so at one point they end up in Africa, and at this point now they Steve and his assistant and the elves have noticed that Arthur and Santa have taken the sleigh out, and they're causing havoc. And so they ask, who is it, the Michael Palin, the old elf?
Oh right, yeah.
And they use an old.
There's
machine.
an old elf with an old machine that can track the sleigh.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's voiced by Michael Palin. So
Yeah.
it's like I didn't know that at first.
Yeah, neither did
When
I,
first
because he's pitched up.
Yeah, because he's pitched up.
My favorite Python.
But he's, but it's a really funny moment. It's like it kind of harkens back to all these moments where it's like you have to realize, yes, there was an old age version, there's a modern age version, and
Yeah,
it's like
because they have no way to contact Grand Santa and Arthur, so they use this old
they have like these
technology.
It's weird little explanations that are helpful to kind of like add to the whole explanation of everything. So it's I think it's charming. I honestly think it's charming, and it also it's like it doesn't have to be 100% explained. It's like everything is magical, even if it's technological. It's like things still need to be. You have to have that suspension of disbelief for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Because it's like if everything is explained, then everything is like it's going to fall apart.
There are little moments where, like there's a scene later in the movie. Well, I guess we'll get to it. But there are little moments where you're like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Oh well, let's move on.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like there was a scene later where I think they're in a boat and they're trying to get the sleigh back, and I'm like, how is he going to get up there? And they have a like one of those like. In England, they have the Christmas crackers where you pull them and they pop. And, there's usually like actual or like a little note or a hat or toys in it. But for some reason, in there was some leftover magic dust.
Oh yeah,
and
that's
you're like,
right.
Where did that come from?
Yeah,
when did they pack?
You're right.
That thing with a Christmas cracker with this Aurora Borealis dust.
Yeah.
And it was like, well.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, it's okay. I mean, it's not really. I don't think. I in order to make things keep going, it's like, oh, how are they going to get out of this one?
It keeps a steady momentum.
Yeah, and
so at times you just have to be like, they have some.
And for a while, when I remember watching this in the theater, I was like, I was on the edge of my seat, wondering like, how are they going to get out of this one?
Yeah,
especially when they're like on the island, and they don't have the sleigh. And Grand Santa explains like, reindeer are really powerful creatures, but they're thick in the head. They'll just keep going forward,
straight line,
and they'll just go around the earth like as fast as possible. So they basically figure it's like, oh, okay, so let's get out into the middle of the sea and try to reach from up there.
Earlier on, you find out that Grand Santa had a motive.
Yeah.
He wanted to prove to Steve that his old-fashioned way can prove. And he gets the sleigh pretty beaten up. And
a lot of reindeer are gone.
Right. Yeah. And so, and then they cause more havoc. They end up they have to go to Trelew, England. Mm-hmm. But they ended up just putting Trelew in the GPS on Bryony's phone.
Yeah, so they're in Mexico.
They're in Trelew, Mexico, and they cause trouble there. And then they end up getting stranded on this island, and beforehand they're on they finally reach through the what they call the ho-ho.
Yeah,
which is what their GPS little thing is for. And Steve calls them, and Arthur kind of realizes
it gets into an argument. Like all the Santas are together, and they're starting to the modern Santa is like Steve, you should have told them not to do this, and like all the elves are starting to also get really like messed up because they keep remembering Christmases past like that have been that ruined Christmas,
and the elves
were like hungry, and they did they were like alone or something, even though there's like millions of them.
They have each other.
But at the same time, it's like Christmas is like the thing that they do, it's
that's like their purpose in life.
So like when something bad happens, it's like they freak out, it's like this is their life force. This is what they do.
But Arthur realizes that Steve kind of just tells him that Dad is just tired. He doesn't want to. He just wants to go to sleep and relax. And he's like, no, but Dad cares.
Dad cares. He told me that he was up all night about this, and then he calls him, and he gets the voicemail.
Right.
And but it gets to the point where it's like the elves go to Santa, and they're wondering like, there's one child that hasn't got their present, and he kind of freaks out a little bit. He's like, oh, God, I should go to Steve.
Yeah, and Steve knows what to do.
Steve knows what to do.
Aren't you the leader? Yeah, I'm Santa.
I'm Santa.
I'm the boss.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk to Steve.
Yeah.
And then there's kind of a bit of a row growing between, because the son feels like he's being unappreciated by his father, and yet the father feels inadequate now that he's not really he kind of realizes that he's just a figurehead, because people say you're just a figurehead in a suit.
Yeah.
And he's like, I guess he realizes he is, and then he ends up going into discovering Arthur, because he doesn't really know what's going on. He's kind of
No.
He's kind of just floats
Yeah,
through.
you know, basically in their own world. I mean, he has been Santa for a long, long time, and you know, he's basically going through the motions. But you know, it's just a job.
Yeah.
You know? And then he goes into Arthur's room, and he sees like this room that's just filled with
images of Santa.
Yeah, images of Santa, letters from children, and letters that he's been writing back to kids. And then he sees like that big portrait of
him and
little Arthur with Santa, you know, like in the lap of Santa. And it's like a very I love this moment because
it's a little poignant moment.
This is the moment where you realize this Santa is a dad.
Yeah.
You know, he's not just the Santa that's giving presents to everyone. He is like the father, and he's realizing that maybe I've been neglecting not only all the children, but my own family.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like it's really poignant, and it's a tender moment,
right.
and I think there's like a bigger meaning to it outside of the whole Christmas thing.
Right.
You know,
like I see it as more like he realizes that he's going through the motions. Yeah, but he's not appreciating, you know, what his sons are doing.
Yeah.
And he is really not pulling his weight anymore. The elves are doing all the work, and it's great that there's this moment that's silent. There's no, I mean, like he reads some letters and sees that his son thinks that his father's the greatest person on the planet, and then he kind of realizes, you know, I don't really take charge for anything. I just sort of let things go, and he's too busy with other things, but at the same time a little too scatterbrained.
Yeah.
And while
he needs to retire as well,
right.
as you know, it's like
it's time for him to pass the torch on, and then while this is going on, Arthur now has sort of a crisis of faith where, you know, Grand Santa had a motive, a very selfish motive.
Yeah.
Steve has a kind of a selfish motive,
Yeah.
and now his father, the person he really looks up to, doesn't care.
Yeah.
So he goes through a bit of a crisis of faith, but then he kind of realizes while looking at the letter that Gwen wrote that it doesn't care who really delivers the present. They're not going to see who it is. It doesn't matter who it is, but she believes that Santa Claus, whether
this picture of Santa that she drew, that's not Dad.
It's not Dad,
it's not Dad.
It's not Grandpa.
Granddad, it's not anyone. This is the idea of Santa, and it's like he starts to realize, and it sort of gets a little crazy as well. But,
right.
But it's like it's that epiphany where it's like you realize it's not about one person. It's about everything as a whole.
It's not about who does it or
Yeah.
like who takes credit for doing it. It's just the act of doing it and making someone else happy.
Yeah.
She'll believe in Santa, this icon, this idea, this entity that is Santa. Santa Santa is a symbol of giving and charity and all this stuff. And he's like, it doesn't matter who delivers the present. We just have to deliver and make sure that her dream comes true.
Yeah.
So he decides to go and deliver this present himself. He's like,
and that's when they because they're trapped on an island, and that's where they realize like, okay, the reindeer are coming again, circling around the earth, and we're gonna like go up there and they do eventually they get to it.
And there's a really cool moment because you're like, they don't have the map anymore, they don't have the GPS anymore, it gets lost in the water. How are we gonna find Trelew, England? We're in the middle of the ocean. Grand Santa takes the sleigh up to the atmosphere, up into space. And you say this is the biggest, the biggest map in the world. And they look down and they just see the Earth, and they're like, "Oh, there it is!" And they go in. And while this is going on, of course, Unfitta is
they're following it with a jet fighter.
Yeah, and they're like, this person doesn't, they're not answering. It's made of wood. What's going on? They don't understand it.
They don't know. They just see it's a UFO. It's an unidentified.
I love how
object.
it's almost like there's almost a kind of like tongue in cheek, kind of like, oh my God, we don't know what this thing is, and we can't contact it. Let's blow it up.
Yeah.
So they send a missile after. They send a jet fighter to blow it up, and they're like, because at one point they're being chased, and Grand Santa's like, "You guys go on and deliver the present. I'll make sure that."
He basically like he realizes that while it was great to have that moment with the sleigh. He had to move on, and he gave like Evie the sleigh like one last ride. And he made his salute, and then parachute it off.
Yeah, and then they say, "Congratulations, everyone! We saved Christmas."
Yeah, as they blow up the sleigh.
They blow up the sleigh, and it's weird. And there's so now they're in Trelew, England, and now there's the sun's going to rise any second.
Yeah,
and they have to rush, and they have to not only
well, we also have to realize that Santa and Steve have also kind of like they've kind of realized that they need to get through this for Arthur.
Yeah,
because he was kind of right. He was right.
Yeah.
This isn't about them. This is about
Santa
Steve is still kind of like
Steve is begrudgingly doing it because Santa's like, well, I got to now save my son. Mm-hmm. And same with Mrs. Claus. Mm-hmm. They have to go save their son, and Steve is like, "What are you doing in my ship?" He's and he's banging it up against the thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And he begrudgingly goes and says, "All right, fine." And then, but
he also goes to Trelew, Mexico.
Yeah,
and which is really in a really hilarious moment. I think this is like one of my honestly favorite parts, where it's like he goes right up to the door, and he's like a business guy doing this.
Like a delivery man.
Like, hello, I realize that we have made a mistake.
A very small margin of error.
And that's you. It's like, here we go. We have upgraded you to the newest bike.
And then you find out that it's the little Mexican kid and his little dog.
Yeah, it's like, and he asks him to sign a waiver.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And he's like, Pedro, a boy?
Pedro,
a Mexican boy. There has been an error.
Yeah, there's been an error.
It's very British in that way. I love it.
Very British.
But yeah, and then everything, there's a race against time now.
Yeah, it's a race against time. And
there's a really great moment where now, even early in the movie, Arthur's like, I can't even ride a bike, even with training wheels on.
Yeah. And
at the end, they're like, well, the town is a mile away. We got to get there. How are we going to get there? We can't run fast enough. Mm-hmm. So Arthur unwraps the bike and rides a tricycle through town like this, trying to get there as fast as they can. Yeah. And while this is going on, the wrapping up, she's going on one
wrapping
wheel.
the way she's
wrapping
the bike.
It's a complicated scene to plan out,
and I think that's really good. Like that's
really cool.
It makes a creative. They came out with a creative way to make this work.
Yeah,
it's like while he's riding it through town, the elf is still wrapping the bike with only like 3 bits of tape.
They call it sticky tape, and I'm like, don't you mean like Scotch tape? It's like, no, they're using 3 rolls of wrapping paper.
Yeah,
they call it sticky tape.
Right?
I don't know, but she wraps this bike really well while all this is going on, doing wheelies and flips and riding on ice and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the ship is arriving in Trelew.
The ship is arriving. It's like the sun is almost risen, but by the time like it gets really light, all of a sudden it gets dark again. And you see the big ship with like the night sky overhead, and it's just kind of like helps save some time.
Right.
So it's like the other Santas have arrived, and meanwhile also the old Santa is still in the back. He kind of knocked his head, and he's like a little like crazy. He's a little loopy. So he's like riding a garbage can with his old reindeer down like, ho, 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 hey, Merry Christmas.
And they make it to the house, and then you have there's a nice moment where Arthur delivers the present, and they all meet together, and then they all agree that Arthur, you deliver the present.
Yeah,
and they deliver.
And what is great is that they all come in their own ways.
Yeah,
which is really funny. It's like there's Santa that just comes through the bathroom door. There's like Steve who unlocks the door with like his little handheld device, and then the old Santa just like flops down the chimney.
The old-fashioned way. And it's great. And then there is that moment where they go in the closet and they watch, and none of them have actually ever seen a kid get one of their presents.
And it's a good moment right there where it's like, they need to see that moment of the kid being really happy to get their present. And in that moment, it's like you have Steve, Arthur, and Santa all up in the same, in this like heads together. And the Santa's in the middle, and he's looking over, and it's like, I think it's good if I finally pass the torch. And he like, gives him the symbol of being Santa, and then he says like, but I also wonder. And they look to Arthur, who is still looking out,
and he really cares. He's got like, he's so happy that this kid is happy on Christmas morning.
Yeah. And so Steve like finally realizes like, he wanted this moment all of his life. But then he realizes,
he did it for all the wrong reasons.
He did it for all the wrong reasons, and then he just like passes it on to Arthur.
Yeah.
And Arthur has basically become the new Santa.
Yeah, I love in this earlier when he puts the present down. You're like, aw, and then garbage pours in.
Oh, yeah.
And like Grand Santa just goes ho 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 ho, and he dumps
like
trash,
coffee cups
and trash. And it's like, it's really poignant. The music like is nice and soft and quiet. And then he just suddenly out of nowhere just dumps a bag of trash, thinking because he hit his head.
Yeah, he hit his head. He's like
so Arthur becomes the new Santa.
Yeah.
But his brother is going to be kind of in charge of.
Yeah,
it's going to be.
Which is basically what he's been.
It's a partnership. It's like a brother to brother.
It's a partnership, and it's like and they say like he's very happy in his position. He has like a new executive chair that he can sit in, and he can live what he is good for.
And now like Malcolm, the what was Santa now is hanging out with Grand Santa because they used to hang out together as a kid. Like he used to let him ride in the sleigh.
Yeah,
the current Santa didn't really have. Steve never rode in a sleigh.
Yeah, it was good. That was a nice like little moment to like hear that. It's like the grandpa also was really upset about Steve because what he would do with Malcolm when he was Santa is like had him with him in the sleigh and like ride around, but he really never did that with Steve or Arthur. So it's like it's one of those moments where it's like it's hard to see that,
right?
Passing the torch along, and then it's like all these traditions that you have, and you don't see that with your grandkids.
Yeah, so and Steve is now overachieving to be get on fire. And he's even it's a kind of a weird throwaway moment. It almost feels like a throwaway moment.
Yeah.
But there's a moment where he's like he's complaining to his father, and he's like, is this about the pool table again? I told you to write me.
Yeah.
And he's like, I was 8 and you're my dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like weird because he's trying to, he wants to be recognized by his father, and he's kind of an overachiever.
Yeah.
But he's overlooking the important thing about Christmas is, making sure that the children are happy.
Yeah.
Which Arthur does. He's the loving side of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
In fact, I think Arthur takes more after his mother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, it's weird.
Exactly.
Both kids weirdly take after the mother. Like, Steve is very much like he knows what to do. He's in control, much like his mother.
Yeah.
But the mother is also very caring and very understanding, which Arthur is.
Yeah.
But he's also bumbling, but, much like his father.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, and there's even a moment where he's like, even Steve is like, did you just put in you just looked up Trelew, England, or looked up Trelew and you just picked the first one you found? You're just like Arthur. And he goes, oh, am I? And it's funny because then it makes it really, and it goes back again that you really do feel that these people are related to each other.
Yeah, yeah.
That the son takes the bumbling aspect of the father.
Yeah.
But
none of them are perfect.
None of them are perfect.
None of them are perfect.
But it's really, but it really does feel like even from a design standpoint and just how they act and their characteristics, they feel like they're related. It really does feel when you really sit down and like we said before, every time we watch this movie we find something new.
Yeah.
And there's something we like it more and more as we watch it. One, because of all the cool little Easter eggs in the back.
Yeah, yeah.
And stuff like that. Stuff you don't notice. And some of the dialogue is really great. Even though like some dialogue goes over my head because I don't know too much in terms of like British slang.
Yeah. But I love that.
But it adds to it. I like it. I can understand it enough. And also, you kind of go back and realize, oh man, look at the thought they put into this movie. They really they looked at this from almost all angles.
This movie really meant something to the makers of it, and it's like you feel that you feel that love and care to it, and it's a very heartwarming movie. I mean, honestly, it's
probably one of the best Christmas movie. I mean, definitely as far as a Christmas animated film.
Yeah.
But in terms of a Christmas movie, like this is a definite Christmas movie.
Oh yeah, definitely. I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to watch like any sort of Christmas movie around the holidays.
I would easily. It's just hard for me to say because I have my choice of stuff that I grew up with that I love as far as Christmas specials and Christmas movies. But this one has kind of moved up, and now I would go so far as to say it's in my top 5 now.
Yeah.
I think
Same here.
There's nothing better than watching a movie and being entertained and being kind of like wowed by the scope of the movie, of not just like the scope, like, oh my God, look at all the detail.
Yeah.
It's just like looking at it and seeing how much thought was put into the movie. And it's a heartwarming movie, and it's funny, and it covers all those bases, and it hits the mark exactly where you think it's going to hit.
Yes.
And it's weird because the movie only takes place over the course of really only 2 hours or so.
Yeah.
2 or 3 hours, because
there's so much that gets thrown to you. It does get a little overwhelming at first because there's just so much information that comes in. But once that, once once you move on from that beginning, like introduction to everything, little details are added as the movie comes on, and it's like it's nicely paced.
Yeah. And it's a fun movie to kind of like, after you watch it, just sit and kind of reflect on it. And be like, like I didn't really, you don't really think about certain things like the design and how those characters are, but that family really does feel close. They really feel related, like I said a million times before. But you sit down, like just me reflecting on it right now, it's like, wow, what a great. The fact that it's a very cool idea. I mean, I would say it's original enough, because I mean, some people would be like, "Oh, this took from this or took from that," but at the same time, it feels original enough that you're like, what a unique movie.
Yeah,
and like, it's one of those movies that people should know about this movie, but people don't. Like, I don't know, like. People will be like, Arthur Christmas. Oh, you mean what? Like Arthur the Aardvark? They did a Christmas movie with Arthur? No, not that Arthur. This Arthur Christmas. Aardman did it. Like the Wallace and Gromit guys. Like
Arthur the Aardvark.
Yeah.
No, I like.
But nobody knows about this movie, and I think people should.
It's definitely a movie that should be on your watch list if you're ever into like watching Christmas movies, and there's quite a few out there, but this would be one of my top suggestions for anyone who would want to watch it,
especially for a modern movie.
There is one complaint that I have about this movie though, and that's when I was going into the theater when I first saw this movie, they opened it up with with a Justin Bieber music video. And they advertise it even on here on the Blu-ray. It says Santa Claus is Coming to Town by Justin Bieber from the album Under the Mistletoe.
You guys remember Justin Bieber, right?
Yeah.
What's he been up to?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. What is he?
That was back. I mean, that movie came out in 2011.
2011. Yeah.
I can't believe he's been relevant for 5 years.
God,
of all people,
it's one of those things. But it's like that. I mean. Having it opened up with that kind of soured it a little bit for me, but as soon as the movie came in, I was like, "Oh God, I love this movie!" It's
like we watched the movie again, and at the end, after we see like the credits and stuff, it suddenly goes into that song, and you're like, "Nope," and you just turn it off.
Yeah, I just turned it off. It's like we don't have to read it
because I actually didn't realize it because I don't have the movie on DVD. So I didn't see that sticker or anything. I didn't know about it because I didn't see this movie in theaters. I only saw it. I think I saw it on television.
Yeah, I
think it was probably one of those ABC Family 25 Days of Christmas kind of things. I was just at home and it was on, and I just watched it. I'm like, this is a good movie. I like this movie a lot.
Yeah,
and
it's really I
actually showed this movie. Was it last Christmas? Last Christmas, probably. I showed this movie to my mom. I put it on my iPad.
Yeah.
And I plugged the iPad somehow into the TV. And I showed it to my mom. And my mom thought it was adorable. She thought it was really sweet. And we got to sit down and watch this really cute movie. And it was a hard year for my mom.
Yeah.
So it was nice to sit down and watch a very heartwarming Christmas movie with her.
Yeah, it was the same with my mom. When we watched this together, it was like, she really dug it. And it's really hard to sell like a movie about Santa to my mom, so it's one of those movies where it's really heartwarming. It's just like it's not only a Christmas movie, it's like a family movie. It's like it's really about a family.
Yeah.
So it has like that really good element where it's like a lot of people act like this during Christmas, so it's like they're real people, but at the same time there's like that magical element to it. It's like there's the Santa Claus and the elves and surrounded like that, but it has a little bit of everything in it. So if you haven't seen it, go see it.
And the thing also is that it makes me think like, okay, not scraping the bottom of the barrel, but I mean in terms of like, now what is there left to do? for Santa Claus movies. And do I think is the next step?
Yeah.
A buddy comedy with Santa and Krampus. I think that should be the next animated movie.
Oh my god!
No, I'm not kidding.
Oh my god!
Have like
you know what's funny though? Yeah. No, go keep going.
No, but I mean, like, I think it would be really funny to have like a buddy comedy about Santa and the Krampus. How they first meet and they have to deliver presents, and like have Krampus like beat the shit out of really bad kids.
Yeah.
Like I want to see that movie.
Yeah.
I would love to see an animated comedy. A dark comedy almost, because I know there's that Krampus movie that's out in theaters now.
It's almost like a God, the Devil, and Bob sort of scenario, but with Santa and Krampus.
Yeah, I would love that. I think that would be really neat. And like Krampus is like the weird kind of like Zeus and Hades in a way.
Yeah,
but I love that idea that maybe like Krampus like hits on Mrs. Claus, and she's like, "Oh, he's so disgusting."
Yeah, it's like, why do you invite him?
Why do you invite him over? Like, I would. This is mine. I'm copywriting this, folks. This is my idea. It's called The Krampus and Me, or Christmas with the Cramps. No, wait, no.
Christmas with the Krampus.
Yeah, Krampin's Christmas. I don't know. Something. I'll come up with a less punny, horrible animated title. But I'll start writing.
Speaking of Krampus, I've actually heard that the Krampus movie is really good.
I heard so too.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm not into horror, and I don't think it's gory or anything. I think it's just psychological.
I've been hearing that it's
it's in the vein of Gremlins.
It's funny because it's in the vein of like someone found an 80s script and just basically made it on that basis.
Yeah.
It's like, so I'm kind of curious about it and I want to see it.
I kind of do, but at the same time, I don't know, because I was like,
I mean, I can wait for it to come out.
Right,
on
me too.
Video, but at the same time, it's like I'm really curious about it.
I asked
because I love Gremlins too. I mean, like I used to hate it because I saw it in the theaters when I was a kid, and I was like scared of those things for years. But then it's like, now that I saw it again, I really love this movie, and it's really it's fun, it's goofy, So, I
think that's all we could say about Arthur
Christmas.
Christmas.
All we can really say about it. It's a great movie. I suggest you go out and see it if you haven't.
Rent it.
I think it would easily become one of your favorite Christmas movies. Because if you like stuff like How the Grinch Stole Christmas,
but if you love Aardman's other works,
and that's another thing. It's like this is an Aardman movie.
It really does feel like it. And I love. If you love British movies, if you love like that British comedy, if you love, I mean, I think there's a lot of things you could take away from this movie, and I think
Aardman is really good at making a world. It's like making a believable world and kind of like
likable characters too.
Yeah, coming up with characters that all kind of fit in the same universe, and then kind of explaining everything as you go along. And there's so many things in this movie that happen, and there's like there's problems and solutions and stuff like that, and it's like it all comes together, and it's really it's
like, why is this movie not remembered? And a movie like Polar Express, which I think is one of the ugliest.
I think it's remembered because it's so damn ugly. Honestly,
I don't know why, but like Polar Express, because people said it was like a vent seeing it in a theater, because they used to for years.
Yeah.
They would replay that movie in theaters like a special engagement.
Yeah,
and it's like, this movie isn't that great, and I think they finally realized, no one really cares about Polar Express.
Yeah, I think they were pushing it. I think
they pushed it.
I think they were trying to just like, please like this movie.
Yeah, this movie is a great movie. Mm-hmm. Go check out this movie. Don't watch Polar Express anymore.
Yeah, don't watch Polar Express ever.
Yeah,
and also that Christmas Carol movie,
the Grinch. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I was thinking Jim Carrey.
Yeah, Jim Carrey starring the Grinch.
Yeah.
The Christmas Carol.
I haven't seen that. I heard that it's very creepy looking.
Yeah,
my mom saw it, and she's like,
it's more of a horror movie actually. When you watch it,
my mom watched it. My mom is like in her 60s now, mm-hmm. and she watched it. It was on TV, and she recorded like, "Ooh, A Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey."
Yeah,
she likes Christmas Carol and stuff, and she put it on, and she stopped it halfway through. She's like, "This is gross."
Yeah,
and I'm like, "What was it? Disgusting?" She's like, "It just looked weird."
Yeah,
and I said, "Well, that's motion capture." She's like, "Well, what is that?" It's like, "Well, when they put on the little ping pong balls." It's like, "Oh, like I saw a thing on that on TV with, I think they were doing one of those Lord of the Rings movies." Yeah. I said, "Yeah, a lot of people use this motion capture stuff." She's like, "Yeah, it looked creepy. It looked really like almost gooey.
Yeah,
I'm like,
gooey.
gooey, and I'm like, and I said even that like gooey. That's not a word I would describe.
It's like all of them were slimy and just covered in like some
But I mean,
sort of-
I've seen clips of the movie where like there's very realistic action, and then suddenly they're doing really cartoony action, and it really seems off because they're used to them seeing very grounded and down to earth, and then you start seeing them bouncing up in the air and twiddling their legs, and it looks really off.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and also like the Scrooge in that movie just kind of like flails a lot. I mean, like they I mean, I know it's Jim Carrey, but at the same time, it's like he is flying through the air and like constantly like moving his arms. Like I almost
He's an old man. He shouldn't be flailing his arms.
Yeah. So it's like that. There are several times where this old man should be like dead.
Yeah.
You know,
We should just talk about Christmas Carol because there's so many Christmas carols that are so...
Yeah. Well, there's so many, and you know that Richard Williams one that
which I think is beautiful and awful at the same time.
it's haunting.
It's haunting, but I don't think it's that good of an adaptation of the story. It's very truncated. It moves really fast, and I think that it's very, very cold. Despite how beautiful it looks, it's very cold. Yeah. Unlike, say, something like, I don't know. I mean, there's better.
I like a Muppets Christmas Carol. That's
yeah,
really
I do too. Except the weird thing is that the Muppets should be front and center. And when the Muppets aren't taking front and center and they just seem like like Michael Caine is a pretty good Scrooge.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel that the Muppets either undercut the story, like they almost detract from the story, or they feel like they're being sidelined by the story.
Well, I kind of like the fact that the Scrooge is the human. He's like he is the special guest of this Muppets movie.
Right. I mean, personally, I would have rather seen an all Muppet cast or... I don't know.
I think it works for what it is. Yeah. Mickey's Christmas Carol, which is also another
which really isn't Mickey's Christmas Carol. It's Scrooge's
Christmas
but
Carol.
Mickey just happens to be in it.
Yeah, Mickey's the icon though.
Which is I grew up with that one.
I did too.
I love the story of A Christmas Carol, and I've said this before to people. Once Disney usually touches something, no one can ever touch it again. Like, if you think Little Mermaid, the first thing you think of is Ariel with the red hair, or Cinderella, you think of the Disney Cinderella, or Snow White. Christmas Carol is really one of the few stories that Disney has done. Disney has done it like 2 or 3 times in its own way, and it's not... You don't automatically think of the Disney version of that story. You think of the book, or you think of the icon of Scrooge and Marley.
But I also think it's not that well known because it's not really a movie. It's like a short. You know, it's
what, Mickey?
Yeah, the Mickey Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
So because it's like not even a half an hour.
It's like 20-something minutes long.
Yeah,
I think.
And it's really a shortened version of A Christmas Carol.
It's truncated.
But I do like the fact they did some great casting with their own characters. You know.
Yeah, I mean it was weird. I remember as a kid being like, Jiminy. I mean, but the thing about certain characters like Jiminy Cricket and the Wind in the Willows characters really work kind of alongside the classic Fab Five Mickey characters.
Yeah.
So and even in the movie you see like Pete and the Big Bad Wolf,
even the Giant
and the Giant. Those characters fit in the universe of Mickey Mouse
and the Weasels.
Because I found out the Mickey's Christmas Carol was based on a record. They did a record with Alan Young playing Scrooge.
Oh, really?
And it was a record, but on the record, it was, I think Jiminy Cricket was still... No, Jiminy Cricket wasn't the Ghost of Christmas Past. I know that the ghost, it was the Queen from Snow White, the witch was the future, and Merlin from Sword in the Stone.
Really?
Yeah, it was really weird.
Huh.
And I forget who was... I really don't think it was... Jiminy Cricket as Ghost of Christmas Past in that one. I think it was someone else. But they used... Because characters like Merlin don't really look good alongside next to Mickey.
Yeah, and the Queen?
The Queen...
I mean, that's an interesting cast choice, but
it was on a record, so they had like a little book and like the cover of the record with images of the story.
Well, you know,
but I think characters like Jiminy Cricket and Mr. Toad,
if they're animal characters and and really caricaturized human beings, not like
they have Donald rides the horse from Mr. Toad, and I think in the background you see. Oddly enough, I think I remember in the Fezziwig scene where they're dancing.
Yeah,
it's also like Uncle Waldo from Aristocats.
Yeah.
But he kind of fits.
Yeah.
Because I think they kind of dumbed down his design to make him look more like a relative of, say, like he looks more like Ludwig von Drake than he does like in the other movie.
Yeah.
And then there's a Daisy, of course, but then there's like the three little pigs and the big bad wolf and the three little wolves.
Yeah.
Which that works. Like those characters work alongside.
There's Chip and Dale in it as well.
Chip and Dale and those characters all, and even I think even the dog from Robin Hood with the bandaged leg.
Oh yeah.
He was in it.
He was
like
in it.
But the cast seems very unified in that. And of course
Stuff like that is really cool.
I mean, it's almost perfect to think like, oh, Goofy is Marley and he's clumsy.
Yeah,
like, that's really a cool thought. And of course, Scrooge is Scrooge, and Mickey as Bob Cratchit is pretty suitable.
Yeah. Because it's the everyman.
Right.
It's like the.
And I think that to me, I grew up at that one, but I don't think of that as my quintessential, like, this is Christmas Carol to me.
Yeah.
Like, to me, oddly enough, there are certain movie, live action, or animated adaptations of the story that I love.
Yeah.
But I don't automatically think of the movie version of the story. I think of the book, because I remember reading the book when I was a kid. And I look towards the book, and my image of what Scrooge looks like in my head, rather than saying like, oh, Alastair Sim, or there's one with George C. Scott as Scrooge, or Michael Caine as Scrooge, or Scrooge McDuck as Scrooge, or like or Mr. Magoo. Like, I don't automatically think of those film adaptations of them when I think of those
Fred Flintstone.
Oh yeah, oh god. And then on the other side of the spectrum is the Flintstones Christmas Carol. Now we're talking about Christmas Carol. I guess we should move on.
Yeah.
But either way, watch a bunch of Christmas carols.
Yes, watch them all.
Watch them all.
All 95 of them.
All 95,000. Even like, and also the weird, like, everyone's done the It's a Wonderful Life thing where even the Chipmunks did an It's a Wonderful Life. And,
well, It's a Wonderful Life has always been my Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Like my quintessential Christmas movie.
yeah, like you showed me Miracle on 34th Street, and I've actually never seen Miracle on 34th Street.
That's another good
classic one.
That's
with
another
Natalie
great
Wood.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and that would be a movie I'd watch every Christmas.
Yeah, certainly.
That and It's a Wonderful Life and this movie, and like some people love like Christmas Story. I like it. It's not one of my favorites. And Elf. I'm not a huge, like we said, I'm not a huge fan of Elf.
Yeah. All the Rankin Bass ones. I mean, like, I don't get me wrong. They're all very symbolic. They're all really they're wonderful cartoons.
Yeah.
For Christmas time. I have never really been that big on them.
Personally. I never was a fan of Rudolph or Frosty. I liked Santa Claus is Coming to Town, which was the story of how Santa Claus became Santa Claus.
Yeah.
I grew up at that one. I've actually never seen the one with the Heat Miser and the Snow Miser. I love
that. I love that one because I have memories with my sister on
I've actually never seen that one.
Yeah. I love it because of the songs. It's like, I'm Mr. Heat Miser. I'm Mr. That kind of stuff is fun. The one that kind of killed the whole Rankin Bass thing to me has been that really, really creepy Santa Claus story where it's like a bunch of like elves and fairies and stuff where it's like
the Life and Adventures of Santa Claus.
Yeah,
that one is weird.
That one is creepy.
I actually watched that for the
like,
first time last year, and it was really creepy.
And all of those dolls are like really scary to look at, and it's like and it's very slow and it's not paced very well. You almost don't even know what it's about sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like there's like this weird tingly elf. It's the elf that I feel like is what Tingle from Legend of Zelda is based off of. It's like
it looks really. There's a bunch of Rankin Bass Christmas, like a little drummer boy. They did one, and I remember that one, but that one's a really slow paced one.
Yeah, and
like the baby Rudolph's Shining New Year.
Yeah. All right. So, what about let's see, what's it called? Small one. Did you ever see that one?
The small one, I like it, but it's oddly paced also.
It is oddly paced.
It's very bloothy.
Yeah, very
for
bloothy.
For good reason, and I mean, if you look into it, you'll find
But it's a pretty movie. It's
beautiful.
It's a very beautiful movie. But yeah, like you said, it's very slow paced.
Yeah. I love, and even like some of the weird, like, I grew up, my go-to Christmas special as a kid, because me and my older sister used to watch every year Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Yes, yeah.
Which is one of my favorites. I got to watch that again before the year's through. And Muppet Family Christmas.
We need to see it together because I honestly have not. I don't remember that.
And
movie.
I have the uncut version because now that Disney owns Kermit, any version of Emmett Otter is heavily edited because because usually back in the old days, Kermit because he was he's what brought people in, like Mickey Mouse. Like he would bring in people into the story, like a story of Emmett Otter, like Emmett and his ma live on that thing over there,
Yeah.
And it's really, I love that. And Muppets Family Christmas, where all the Muppets go to Fozzie's mom's house, and then the man from Fraggle Rock and Sprocket are also in the house, but the Fraggles live underneath the house, and then the Sesame Street characters come. It's like the Muppet All Stars, like all these Jim Henson, and even Jim Henson in as a cameo, like he's washing dishes with Sprocket. It's like such a weird, but I love it. And they sing,
that's cool.
And that's one is heavily edited too. I got an uncut version because they found out that like once Disney bought the Muppets, they're like, oh, we have millions of dollars at our disposal, but we don't feel like paying the rights for certain Christmas songs. Yeah. So like, I'm like, why
seem to be really lax about a lot of Muppet stuff because
they don't really care
because
about the
season
Muppets,
4 and 5 have still not been out on DVD yet,
and even the DVDs, they're double dipped.
And even now, since they own Star Wars, because for the longest time I thought because they wouldn't release the 4th season because it had the Star Wars cast in it as guest stars, that's why they didn't release it on DVD. But now that they have it, it's like, come on, check it out.
But also, I noticed on the DVD, but on the DVDs, they double dip because they're like, oh, we can't have the rights for the song, so we're just going to take another skit from a show. So you'll be like, why have I seen this 3 times on this DVD? Yeah, it's really bad. They're really bad in that sense. But also, like,
let's not like end on a bad note.
But we were talking about other Christmas specials that are kind of under the radar. And for me, there's 2 that I really love. One is Ziggy's Gift, which is the Ziggy Christmas special, which was a Richard Williams, Eric Goldberg.
Yeah. I like that one.
It's really good. Really well animated. And the great thing about it is that it's a Ziggy special, but Ziggy isn't Ziggy. Like, he's just a silent, little, quiet, cute little man, rather than like a pessimistic, the world hates him.
It's really funny. Ziggy has become like both the most depressing thing and also the most like iconically happy thing, because there's a lot of like greeting cards with
it's like a smiling Ziggy with his little dog or his little cat.
And it's like he's well-wisher as well, but then there's also like the really depressing moments that I think it's like what the comic has actually really become, it's like, or it has been, so
it's really weird.
Also, A Wish for Wings at Work.
That's the other one I was going to say, which was the Opus the Penguin, which I know Burke. How do you pronounce his last name?
Burke Brethard.
He doesn't like it. He doesn't like it. Of
course, he doesn't like it.
But the thing is, it's weird,
of course, he doesn't like it.
That was made by Amblin. That was right after the Five-O Goes West.
Yeah.
So it was all those crews. So it's all these really great animators, and it's really well animated.
It has like a lot of voice actors and actors like
one of the creepiest Santas I've ever seen. So.
And Robin Williams in it.
Robin Williams and Dustin Hoffman are in it, and Joe Alasky, and the guy who plays Gurgi is Bill the cat, and what's his name? Michael Bell plays Opus, so it's him kind of doing his Chaz Finster kind of voice. But in Opus, and originally, because I know Berkeley Breathed said something like he imagined Sterling Holloway's voice coming out of Opus. So I'm like, I guess I could see that, but it's like I can't imagine it's going like, oh bother.
Yeah,
it just sounds to me.
I think the voice that they had was
fits
good.
Him.
Yeah, and who was it? I'm trying.
Michael Bell.
Michael Bell.
I think is his name.
Right.
He's a voice director nowadays, but he's a voice actor. He
has a very distinct voice.
He was Chucky's dad on Rugrats.
Yeah.
And a bunch of other characters too.
Yeah. So that's I think that's all we could say about our Christmas animation adventures.
Yeah, it's funny. We actually barely mentioned. I mean, we're not going to go into it, but we barely mentioned even like Garfield Christmas or Charlie Brown Christmas or
it's
but everybody has talked about those.
Yeah, the thing about a lot of these throughout the years, they have been so well known, and they're just like staples. It's like I kind of want something, different.
Like
know?
this
It's
year is
I like the obscure.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna go into like obscure like in the He-Man Christmas special, which is like
Star Wars Christmas.
Yeah, I oh God, with that no.
Whip. Whipster.
That's not even a Christmas special. I don't even know.
I mean,
what that is.
any Christmas special that has B. Arthur and Star Wars in it is my cup of tea. Let's go for it. But yeah,
well,
like,
the B. Arthur part is
yeah.
probably the only moment I actually
like this year is the 50th anniversary of or 50th? 50th or 60th?
60th? I don't know. Of what?
No, it's the 50th. I'm sorry. It's the 50th of Charlie Brown Christmas.
Oh yeah, you're
And
right.
It's like I like Charlie Brown Christmas, but like when I heard it's the 50th anniversary of this, what is considered the quintessential Christmas special.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't care. Like, I love Peanuts.
Yeah, no, I
really
love
do.
it. I still love it. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I don't. I still admire it for what it is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, I kind of want to talk about something else.
Right.
Yeah.
Same with like even Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol, which is really the first animated Christmas special.
Yeah.
It's that one I've seen a bunch of times, and I'm not really. It's slowly paced. I'm not a huge fan of that.
And all these Christmas Disney and Warner Brother cartoons.
Oh, like where they have Bugs Bunny, and they did a Bugs Bunny Christmas Carol.
Yeah,
and they did that also Bah Humduck, which was the recent one,
yes, yeah,
which
I
is an
remember.
odd one.
And I was talking about that Santa Claus cartoon from Disney where it's like dun, 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 dun,
where
dun, dun, dun,
and it's like the racist.
dun, 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 dun,
He has the racist Pickaninny black girl toy, and he's like,
yeah,
and he swallows a plane. It's like,
yeah, silly symphony one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. All right, so I think we're going to end this with we're going to do one more Christmas podcast before
we're gonna talk about even more.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about, but we're gonna leave this one up to you.
Holy shit!
Yes. I have in my hand right now 4 VHS tapes that I found each for 50 cents. That should tell you what kind of territory we're going into
Where'd you
right
find them?
now. I went to just a thrift store, just like a Goodwill or something like that. Yeah. And they have VHS sections still. It's like there's VHS tapes that are still around.
Like I like going to Amoeba in Hollywood and occasionally just going through the VHS section and being like, "Hey, I'll pick it up. I'll get a VCR someday."
Because like people don't really realize that a lot of stuff still isn't on DVD.
Yeah.
I like to find the things that have not been on DVD yet and that are still on VHS, and I like picking them up and finding them and stuff. And sometimes even the VHS tape is unedited. I'm still like I'm still baffled at the fact that An American Tail on DVD is edited for the weirdest reason. The kid at the end of it, they changed his voice. And it's like, I don't know why. I don't know.
I still haven't seen that version. You have to show it to me.
Yeah, it's like, well, first I got to find the DVD version, but I have the VHS version. I'll show you. But it's like, the kid's like, he's looking for his family. But it's not that kid. It's the other kid, the one with like the glasses. Yeah, and for some reason they changed his voice. I have no idea why. It is so weird, and I'm gonna have to like try to find like a comparison at some point and just like post that. But I have 4 VHS tapes, and I'm leaving that up to the listeners to decide which ones
and what are the names of these awful things.
So this one is called, the first one is called The Night Before Christmas, and that alone won't tell you what it is, but it's, let me read on the back. A kind-hearted young orphan boy and his loyal cat discovered the true spirit of Christmas in this delightfully animated Yuletide tale of magical holiday cheer. And that also doesn't explain anything, but we're going to post a picture of that on the Facebook, and we'll have you decide. It looks all right. But who knows? And the second one is Nick and Noel. On the back it says A Special Wish. Howard is a dad who doesn't know that his daughter Sarah has only one Christmas wish. She wants a mother. And Noel, her cat, knows this, and together with Nick, the dog who lives next door, sets out on a heart-pounding adventure to make the little girl's dream a reality. So, there's that. And also we have Hans Christian Andersen's The Tin Soldier. And I think people understand the story of the Tin Soldier.
After seeing the Fantasia 2000 version.
Yeah. And this is by High Tops Video, which I have never heard of. But
is that the one with the picture of the shoe? With the
yeah. So and it's narrated by Christopher Plummer. So there's that. Twiddly-dee.
Sorry.
And I also have The Nuttiest Nutcracker, which is a nutty twist on a classic tale, and its computer animation has gone nuts. That's what it says in the back here. And this is a Columbia TriStar Home Video, and it's sealed with tape for some reason. It's almost like it doesn't want us to watch this. But
it's never been opened.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's never been opened, but it's like I've never actually seen that where there's like I know it's like a security measure, but of all things, this.
Well, so it doesn't slip out of the box.
Well, it's already covered by plastic, so whatever. But those are our 4 options.
We'll post a picture of them, and
we'll
you can choose which
We'll
one
post
you
up photos, and then we'll put this down to a voting poll, and by the end next week, it will be our fate.
Watch one of these 4 movies.
One of these, and we'll probably have to watch it on my VHS player. So it's like,
what, in the living room?
No, I have it in here. It's on the computer. That's the only way I can actually play it right. Actually,
yeah, I gotta get a VCR.
Yeah. So but yeah, that is our podcast about Arthur Christmas and Christmas specials.
Remember when we were talking about Arthur Christmas?
Yes,
it was like hours ago.
Yeah, it was. It was actually about an hour ago. So.
Oh shit. All right, well, I hope I didn't,
Yeah. But thank you so much for joining us. We will talk to you next time, whether you like it or not.
Jesus.
We're broadcasting straight to your brain next time.
You don't have a choice in the matter.
Yeah, you have no choice. You're going to have to listen to us. So, thank you so much. This has been Animated Anarchy. Oh, once again, I almost forgot. If you want to talk about the show and you want to follow everything about the show or discuss or make suggestions or something like that, go to our Facebook page and give us a like. We are at facebook.com/animatedanarchycast. And that is probably the best way to get in touch with us. And even though that we are on Twitter, which I am at AWDTwit, and Mike, you are at
A Guy Who Draws.
Yes. And also you can find us on iTunes and Stitcher. Please give us a favorable review. And make sure to 5-star us on that, and it'll help out the show and give us a little bit of a boost. So and if you enjoy the show, that is, which I hope you do. If you're like if you've gotten this far already on the podcast, you might already like it. Otherwise, you're just torturing yourself. But yes, that has been another Animated Anarchy podcast. I am Andrew Dickman. Oh my God, we didn't talk about that.
I just remembered.
That's basically the ho 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 of this movie.
Yeah.
It is pretty funny.
Yeah, Arthur when he laughs, he goes
Yeah. So
that's my name, by the way.
Oh yeah,
It's my name.
It's whenever I call you, okay, hey, how you doing?
I'm good.
All right,
and I'm Mike.
In case you need his real name.
My name is Michael Ruocco.
And this has been Animated Anarchy. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Oh. Is that how we're going to begin this?
God, I sound like Revenge of the Nerds.
It sounds more like the nerd version of the Psycho theme.
There's that smell again!